Nkosi sikeleli Afrika maluphakanyisu tumolayo.
These have been the scenes outside Clover offices. Workers have accused the company of not negotiating or communicating with them on a number of issues.
It's too long, the Clover. I got 26 years. I'm approaching 27 now. But we used to have this meetings, negotiations, increases. Now, condition Clover used to have a good spirit with the unions. But as far as I'm concerned, since there is this people of Milko from Israel who bought the majority shares, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, but they're just, it's not long that they're here. Since they've just changed drastically.
Workers say they were told to either accept a salary cut or face retrenchment.
Sisebenza emashop uvele wabona nje ngerep useyifika neform seyifilisha na iform seyibonisa ngeamount ethi uzofumana le mali for 6 months. When it comes more you check le mali ukuthi no man, this money is not right because it is othatha 20% from my salary. And when I try to count this money ngizoyithola bathi ngizothola 6,100. So after my deduction ngizothola 1,500. Ngizoyenza nge 1,500. I-transport, nginabantwana, ngiyarenta, it's nothing to me.
They've also complained that Clover considers public holidays and Sundays as normal working days, so they do not get the time off. They also say the company does not provide the clothing they need for their working conditions.
Like 3 years back, Clover yagcina ukusipha ama-uniform. Mangabe sebenza emafrijini sebenza kanzima mina ngi-merchandise. Then la ngisebenzela khona kuyabanda kune-backup la kumele ukuthi uyodrowa khona istock uphinde ubuye uzobhaka istock like i-95% yesitoko sase-Clover sisemafrijini and abasinikezi ama-safety boots, asinawo ama-freezer suits like nje asazi ukuthi why bebengasinikezi. Shuthi bona bebazi ukuthi kunale implementation le yabo la bazositshela yona manje.
In a statement, Clover says they explored all possible avenues to minimize retrenchments and ensured a process that was fair in accordance with all legal requirements. They've also said they have been engaging representative bodies regarding the annual wage review since April 2021. On 9 November 2021, Clover made a final offer of a backdated 4.5% increase in wages effective 1 July 2021, but this was rejected. Employees and unions have urged the government to intervene in the situation.
Look, from our side, we want all the austerity measures which are put in place by the company to be scrapped. We are talking one van assistance, a compressed work week, the cutting of salaries of our members by 20%, the working on public holidays, and therefore we want all those issues to be scrapped so that workers can go back to work. But also what is very strange is that this is a racist attitude of the employer, because what is happening, only black workers' salaries are cut, but the executive salaries are not cut. Even they've been borrowed money 2 years ago, even today they are not paying those monies. Hence we are on strike, and we are saying that we need the bonus to be paid by management, because that has got nothing to do with the strike. They cannot punish our members because of their own strike. We know that they've paid others. Therefore, we are saying they must pay all the people in all the 9 provinces. And until such time that our demands are met, our strike will continue. And we are calling on all the public to boycott the Clover products, and will be mobilizing the communities in all the 9 provinces to make sure that the products of Clover are not bought by the communities this Christmas.
I just want to mention to you that this strike is not just about wages, but it's also a political fight, in that the unions say that the Central Bottling Company, which is based in Israel and has been one of the major shareholders of Clover since 2019, they're accusing this company of directly being implicated in war crimes and crimes against humanity in terms of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So they accuse this company of directly funding the Israeli Defense Force. And for more on this, I'm going to talk to Sasha Knox.
I'm with the Workers' and Socialist Party, and we're in full support and solidarity with Clover workers here. What we saw is that kind of ravished by, the ongoing drought in the country, increased context of austerity and cuts. Clover Company was really battling, and it was bought out by Milco Consortium as well as the Central Bottling Company for around 4.8 billion. So what we're seeing here is a massive multinational investment, a massive multinational takeover of Clover, and yet with all of that money invested in Clover, we're seeing massive job slashing. We're seeing workers subjected to absolutely brutal conditions. They don't have protective gear when they're working in freezers. They have to both drive and offload cargo, risk their lives. There's absolutely no accountability for tonnage. These problems have been ongoing. In 2020, Kilson Manaka was actually killed at a peaceful, protected protest which had very severe police brutality. So what we're seeing is that all of these jobs are being cut in South Africa. These jobs are being exported to Israeli companies which operate on land that is illegally occupied and directly complicit in brutalizing the Palestinian people. And now they are exporting that brutalization of the workers to South Africa. We say there cannot be foreign investments in a company with job slashing, with job cutting. Half of the country is hungry, half of the country is unemployed. This is a fight for all of the united working classes, and we're also calling for a public boycott. We call on everyone to show support and solidarity with the workers at Clover by boycotting all of the Clover products, going into shops, pulling them off the aisles, not purchasing anything produced by Clover. We really need solidarity to see a strong working class victory. And what is at stake is the conditions of whether or not workers in South Africa are allowed to live under conditions of dignity or not. So it's a struggle for all of us as the united working class.
How about your protest here? Why are you protesting? Why are these members protesting?
Well, there are a number of issues, and I think, as you have correctly pointed out, there is restructuring in the company, which in total would result in job losses of over 1,400. 1, 2, there's the issue of wage cuts and wage freezes, which our members are rejecting, but also factory closures that would result, in devastation of many towns like Lichtenberg, Hebron, and others, where local economies are dependent in big factories of Clover. And we are saying that can be allowed to go unchallenged. And this is what our members are saying. We're opposed to factory closures, we're opposed to restructuring, we're opposed to long hours of work, we're opposed to wage cuts and wage freezes. And we are saying that this is a time when we should be creating more jobs, not cutting jobs.
And you are saying you are boycotting dairy products from Clover. So talk to us about that.
Well, we do think that, buying and consuming, dairy products from Clover during the course of a legitimate strike by the workers is a strike breaking, and we are therefore calling on our communities to boycott Clover. But also you would know that there's another element to that. One of the big factors in the situation is a takeover, a hostile takeover of Clover by Milco, Israeli-based company operating in occupied Palestinian lands, which is linked with the occupation of those Palestinian lands, but also is funding Israeli Defense Force, which we consider to be an army of colonial occupation of Palestine. For that, we think that we should stand as communities, as workers, in solidarity with the people of Palestine, and therefore we're calling on divestment of Clover, of Milco from Clover, but also we're saying that the only solution to the problems of Clover is government nationalizing Clover and making sure that it takes it into a democratic control and management of the workers and communities in this country.
You seem not to trust Clover when they say they are relocating from the northwest to Durban in KwaZulu-Natal. You say that is just not the case. Why?
Firstly, because in Queensberg, as everywhere, they are already retrenching workers. They've said the same thing about the location of factories from Western Cape to Port Elizabeth, where we are faced with many job losses at the moment there. But also, there is, the cost of living of the workers there in Durban will simply, erode what earning power those workers are having. Most of the workers in Lichtenberg are staying in communal villages where land, where housing is almost for free, right? Where the cost of living is very low. Now, to relocate workers living there on the pitiful wage of between 6,000 to 6,500 that workers of Clover are earning, to a city, a mega city, on the coast where, tourism industry is pushing up the cost of living to, beyond reach of many people, right? Is to basically force those workers into retrenchment. Hence, hundreds of them have taken voluntary severance package.
Are there any talks ongoing or not?
Yeah, look, for now, the strike began on Monday, the 22nd. Since then, management did not come to the table. And what is happening is that they took us to court. They tried to destabilize the strike. What they've done, they wanted this strike to be deemed illegal, but the court did not grant them that. So the strike is continuing. All the branches, Queensberg, Cape Town, Polokwane, City Deep, and all the other areas are still on strike. You can see here workers today are coming to discuss the issue of the boycott of the Clover products. So we are calling on all the communities to boycott Clover products. We are launching the product today.
In order to intensify the strike, we are calling on the public to boycott all the Clover products in all the shops in all the 9 provinces until such time that the Clover management talks to workers and agree to the demands of the workers.
Aside from a double-digit wage increase, the union also wants to have control over labor brokers. It says many workers get exploited by not being permanently employed.
I'm a contract because it's 6 years sevenza la mara bafuna ukusiregister.
Maybe singayithatha nonyaka silinde nje baze balungise into zethu ngoba zange ngizodlala kudala iClover idlala ngabasebenzi abasebenzi abathola imali okuyiyo ngendaba nje yeClover.
In a statement, the company says contingencies have been put in place to limit the impact of the strike on Clover's operations.
We have plus minus 763 employees jointly in terms of our membership that has been dismissed for a refusal to accept the company's offer of a 20% wage cut in terms of their salary.
Foods and Beverages Group, Clover employees are picketing over an ongoing dispute. A company has taken over Clover in less than 2 years after promising 500 jobs. They have allegedly retrenched thousands. For more on what is happening, we're joined by Mametlwe Sibei, President of the General Industries Workers Union of South Africa. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. So back in 2019, the Competition Commission Tribunal approved the Milko Clover merger. Just remind us about some of the conditions that were given.
Well, part of the conditions were that there will not be any retrenchment as a result of the merger within the period of 3 years, which expires in October 2020. But as you correctly pointed out, since that time, since the takeover, which we opposed because even at the time, we anticipated that it was a hostile takeover, not with the purpose of growing and making money out of growing Clover, but so that they can be able to destroy Clover in order to create a space and a market for an Israeli manufactured dairy product of milk.
So a commitment was given that employees would be retained?
That there will not be any retrenchments until October 2022. We are now in December 2021 and already thousands of workers have lost their jobs. 2 factories were closed in Western Cape last year. 4 factories are scheduled to be closed now in Northwest, 2 from Free State, and of course the other one here in Gauteng, which is City.
And what are you hoping to achieve with the industrial action? What are some of the demands?
Well, I mean, you can appreciate the impacts of this kind of structuring, because it goes beyond even just job losses. But I think if you take issues of factory closures and job losses, I mean, the impact on workers, on their families, but also local economies of many, small towns like Lichtenberg in Northwest would be, devastated as a result of this sort of restructuring. And we are saying that it cannot be right that, investment is made from an Israeli-owned company under a pretext that this investment will be benefiting the economy, will be benefiting workers, will be benefiting communities, but instead we see thousands of jobs being lost. We see a destruction of 100-year-old country's biggest dairy product manufacturer. That cannot be right, because if you take as a starting point that investment are meant to be growing the economy, are meant to be growing the industries and creating jobs, this is not it. And that is the reason that we are calling for nationalization of Clover under a democratic control and management of the workers and community, so that Clover can continue to serve the people of this country, can continue to provide, of course, dairy products, and we are on an affordable basis than what is going to be happening. So we are protesting. We have already won a commitment that management can reverse retrenchments of close to 800 workers, but they want to reinstate them on the basis that they accept wage cuts, which would be very savage, in addition to other restructuring that they are proposing, that where they'll be reducing, amount of assistance for drivers from 2 to 1, and they'll be imposing a compressed working week, which will intensify exploitation of workers and, of course, increase their working hours. All of that we reject, and of course we demand a decent wage increases for our members.
Just in terms of expanding on the level of engagement with the employer, what are some of the reasons being put forth for these retrenchments?
So, to get around the conditions that were imposed by Competition Commission, they are using COVID and the lockdowns as a pretext. But first and foremost, we've got to say this is a blatant lie, and it's not difficult to see. To see that, because one, Clover was operating throughout. It is our members who were risking their lives, putting their health on the line, ensuring that the people of this country are fed during a very difficult period of a pandemic when less was very known about this virus and what it entailed. A lot of our members actually contracted COVID over that period, but they continued. And this is a reward that they're getting. But I think as well, we must appreciate the fact that even in 2019, already a lot of these restructurings were under discussions. They were already putting them forward. So they found effect after the event insofar as COVID is concerned. The restructuring were always there, and the restructurings were always linked with the takeover of Clover by Melco, which we protested also on the basis of our unflinching working class solidarity with the oppressed people of Palestine. We are a country that has been through apartheid. We are a country that has been brutalized through a very repressive regime based on racial discrimination of the working class black majority in this country. We cannot stand idle when the people of Palestine who have been dispossessed of the land, because part of the issue is that some of these products that are going to be displacing jobs in this country are actually manufactured in the occupied territories, Palestinian territories, that are under a brutal military occupation, that are being settled by a Jewish, Israeli citizens with impunity and under protection of Israeli Defense Force, which Melco has donated and has been supporting.
It's a rather difficult time of the year, given that we are in the holiday period. Are you hopeful of a positive outcome?
Well, as I've said, there have been some advances, right? The company was proposing a wage cut of about 20%. They were proposing a wage freeze this year. Already, as we are talking, 4.5% is what we have agreed in terms of an annual wage increase. Secondly, is that they have moved to say they can reinstate about 800 workers that were retrenched last month. But the issue is about the conditions on which they want to reinstate them. If we were to allow that, all that will happen is that the company, every time that they want to roll back our achievements in terms of the wages of the workers, in terms of the working conditions, they will simply be threatening us with retrenchment. So we totally and absolutely reject this blackmail. We are saying these workers must be reinstated with the conditions under which they were initially employed, and of course they must also get increase as well as an improvement in their conditions of work, not the kind of a savage, brutal restructuring that Clover want to impose of compressed working week, of one van instead of 2 van assistants, which would mean that a driver, in addition to driving about 7-8 hours throughout the day, delivering products to shops and other areas where they deliver their products or other retailers, right? In addition to that, they will have to be offloading those products, which is a very heavy work. You can imagine the intensity of exploitation that this would entail for our members, which we reject, which we oppose, and will never agree to.
Which are going to be closed in Lichtenberg, Frankfurt, Pinetown, Heilbronn, and Clover Waters in Gauteng.
And there is more.
The drivers currently are having 2 van assistants. Now they will be having 1 van assistant.